But a few people asking about Rangers transfer activity. Stephen Jackson says Rangers inactivity in the market so far is alarming. I fear the fair play rules might be a hindrance, and so we need to unload players first. And that's off the back, guys, of Danish midfielder Silas Andersen being linked with Rangers today. He's a BK Häcken player. Came through Inter Milan, I believe. Can you give us any steer on Rangers transfer?
I spoke to some people at the club today. He's definitely on a list. Whether or not it's something that's imminent, I'm not so sure. But he's definitely somebody the club are aware of, that they admire, that they've got on a short list somewhere. Whether, as I say, whether or not he's at the top of that or a couple of names down, I'm not quite so sure. I think there's a few guys in that category. I think you could probably put James Penrice in that category. Again, somebody that the club admires. I think there has been talk about a bid going in. Certainly the line I'm getting from folk at the club was that they wouldn't say it's a deal that's imminent. So, but listen, I spoke to somebody at the club today, and they are adamant that they're hoping to get deals done ASAP. Whether that's tomorrow or this time next week, who knows? But I think there is an understanding that, I think, as you guys were saying earlier on, the team have got themselves back in an absolute compared to where they were 3-4 months ago. They now need to make the most of it, and that includes making the kind of signings that are going to get this team through the end of the season. Nobody, certainly I don't think Scott or I expected this team to be anywhere near a title race given how they started the season, but with Danny Rowe coming in, a wee bit of man management skills, a wee bit of tactical now, he's worked wonders so far, frankly, to get them back into a position where they can, they win tonight, they go second, albeit having played a game more than Hearts and Celtic. They can cut the gap on Hearts to 3 points. But I still think there's big question marks over whether this group is good enough, strong enough, has enough goals, has enough robustness to get itself through at the end of the season. So in that case, I think it's absolutely paramount that they get probably 3, maybe 4 guys in over the course of the window.
I think that the Penrice one is really interesting. I believe it to be true, and it's been something I believe they've been working on now for a couple of weeks. He would be exactly the sort of profile of player that Rangers need. A guy that walks straight into the starting 11 and improves it instantly from day one. That's what Rangers are going to need. 3 or 4 of them if they're going to have a realistic challenge, I think, in the second half of the campaign. But I believe there's a bit of an issue there that he's now playing more regularly with AK Athens, and they might not be as willing to do the deal as they were just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I wrote the story last week saying, revealing that they had the interest in him. And I think at that point he'd made 15 starts, another 9 off the bench. So, listen, he's only been there 6 months, and I think he's playing regular enough. Obviously they signed him for a couple of million quid. Whether or not they'd be willing to let him go so soon, or without a major markup in the fee that they paid, that remains to be seen. But he's definitely, as I said, somebody that Danny Rowe and the guys here, Dan Purdy, that they admire.
I think it's clear, Daniel. Speaking about those players, you're kind of getting a sense of areas that Rangers are looking at. Left back is an issue for them. Danny Rowe spoke about that. We know how shambolic the summer window was, and part of that was leaving themselves with only Jade Magoma as a left back. I know at the time they said, Derek Cornelius can maybe play there, but he's a centre back and they've just not got enough cover. On the right hand side they've got Aarons, Tavernier, Sterling now back, obviously, but they're way short in the left back area. So I agree with Jacko. Penrice would be an upgrade, different type of player to Magoma, but probably does walk straight into the team. And in terms of the central midfielder, Anderson, I think as well that they'll be desperate to try and get a number 6, a sitting midfielder. A bit of physicality about them, a bit of power about them.
That's what this guy is, Scott, isn't he? He's a very physical, aggressive midfield player.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I know there's been a lot of talk this season about Nico Raskin's best position. I think we all know Nico Raskin maybe sees himself as a number 6, but I don't think any of us are convinced that's where he'll be long term for Rangers. Even at the weekend, you see that kind of burst into the box for the equaliser for Sharmiti. I think most people agree that's when Raskin's at his best, playing a bit further forward. So I think that sitting midfield role is somewhere that Danny Rowell's desperate to strengthen, and as Andy says, this guy's on the list. They know all about him. Whether it will happen or no, we're not sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if we've got a few players like that on the list, and it's just a case of what one they can get in and get it over the line.
The only thing I'd say on Anderson is I think he's only 21. I mean, at the start of the season, also Martin, he get sort of a bit of criticism because he focused so much of the signings on young guys coming in. McGowan's only 19, Mikey Moore was 17 when he signed. They had to wait for him to turn 18 before he could come in. This is a team that over the last few weeks has looked really young. I think a couple of weeks ago, this average age of the starting lineup, if you took Jack Butland out of it, was something like 22 and a half. So, I think even Russell Martin himself did speak about the need for experience and guys with that older head and just a wee bit of nous about them. So the fact that they're still looking at 21 years, I think that's a team that's crying out for a proper established professional, somebody at 24, 25, right in their prime. Those guys don't come cheap, especially if they're the quality that the Rangers are looking for. And obviously, you've got to take into consideration the business model here. They're wanting young guys so they can sell them on. But I think if Rangers are serious about winning this title now, what they need is somebody who's got experience of going over course and distance. I think that's what this team is badly crying out for.
What about then, lads, a 29-year-old whose last game for Rangers came in a Europa League final when he scored?
I think most fans would take Joe Aribo back, Jacko, in a heartbeat, if I'm honest.
Is there substance to it?
No, that I've heard.
Speculation so far.
There's been a lot of talk. I've not heard anything concrete that would be a doable deal for them. Joe Aribo obviously been big money down at Southampton. He's obviously not been playing. He'll be looking to almost get his kind of career back on track. Whether he'd be willing to come back to Rangers, who knows? But in terms of his quality, in terms of you look at Rangers kind of midfield or middle to front, again, a bit like you're saying about Penrice, he probably walks into
100%.
With his experience and his quality and his know-how in terms of him being here before. If they could do some sort of deal for Joe Aribo, I think most of the punters in here would be absolutely delighted. Whether they can do that or no remains to be seen.